Hey guys, Cody here with Ajax Motorsports. I'm here with Larry Hughes, who is our rep for Stark Future. And he brought us by the Varg today, and man, we were so pumped to see it. It's got so many awesome features that I think you guys are gonna love, and he's gonna tell us a few things about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks man, I really appreciate it. I love being at Ajax. You guys are a great dealer here in the Oklahoma area. So here's the Stark Varg. Man, this thing is available in two power options, a 60 horsepower or 80 horsepower option. You know, the 60 horsepower is really more power than anybody needs. When Ken Roxon rode this bike a few weeks ago, we had the 60 horsepower for him, and he dialed it down a little bit.
Wow.
So people ask us, why do you have an 80 horsepower option? And our standard answer is because we can. You know, and it's so easy to tune it. So you know how easy it is to tune the volume on your phone. You slide it, right? Same way here. If you want full 60 horsepower or full 80 horsepower, you slide it all the way to the right. If you want less horsepower, you slide it over to the left to where you want, whether you want 10, 20, 30 horsepower, whatever your application is. There's three other things you can slide that easy. One of them is engine braking. If you want super easy freewheeling, you slide that over to the left. If you want more like four-stroke, you know, engine braking, you go ahead and slide it over to the right. Traction control is another thing you can control that easy. And then the final one, flywheel effect. So you can really customize the power on this bike.
Yeah, so one of the things that I thought is just incredible about these bikes and the electric capabilities is it's the one machine that can do anything. It can be your 450 motocross bike, it can be your beginner bike, essentially.
Yeah.
You can dial it all the way up and down, and you can, if you want to go ride enduro or trails or motocross or really whatever you want for that moment or whatever the track's adapting to, you can adapt the bike to that. So I'm super excited about that. You're definitely going to see me on one. I think these are awesome. Tell us about some of the features they can do with the pre-order.
Yeah, so if a customer wants to pre-order one, there's some options that he can choose. First of all, with the rear wheel, they can choose if they want either a 19-inch rear wheel, which is kind of a motocross application, or if they want that more beefier 18-inch rear wheel that the off-road guys want. We talked about the horsepower. They can choose the 60 or the 80 horsepower. Color, red is our factory color. But there's a white option, there's a gray option. I really like the white because I like the black frame and the contrast between white and black. But you know, we got those three options. One of the coolest options that they can have is they can give you their weight, and we'll set the springs on the forks and the shock to their weight from the factory on a pre-ordered bike. And I think there's one other thing I'm missing. Oh yeah, right here, rear brake. Whether they want a hand rear brake or if they want a foot rear brake is up to them. So those are all options. The other thing there is, the last one, for an extra $100, if they want a side stand, they can choose to have a side stand.
And one of the coolest features, obviously the bike is awesome, but the square stand itself has got me geeking out all over that. But the square stand also doubles as the charger for it.
Yeah.
Right. And so a big question that we're going to get is, how long does it take to charge, and how long are battery capabilities? I think that's going to be one of our biggest questions.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So our response to that is, and all of our data has shown us that the range for the battery is similar to that of a gas tank of a 450. So a standard 450, not an oversized tank, but a standard 450. You know, there's pro riders usually get a 40-minute moto out of a full tank of gas. A very entry-level rider can get a weekend on a full tank of gas on a 450. We have seen some riders, we've done some testing, we've seen riders that are very entry-level, and on single-track trails, we've seen them get up to 4 and 5 hours.
Yeah, wow. That's definitely quite a ways, and when you're going that distance, I mean, it gives you some time to do different kinds of riding. So motocrossers, you're going to go out and you may burn it up real quick, but it charges fast.
Yeah. So charging, if you are at 20% capacity and you want to get to 80%, it's going to take about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes for that on 110. If you have capabilities to plug into a 220, then that's going to come down to half that time.
Yeah, and so I want to just reiterate that. You said on 110, so that's your standard wall outlet. You don't have to get fast charging out of it. You can get faster charging with 220, but to get fast charging out of it, you just plug it into the wall. And you already have way faster charging than some of its predecessors out there from other manufacturers, which I think is really awesome to be able to get that charge back into it. So you can essentially ride for several hours, or at my pace, ride for several hours.
There you go.
Plug it back in, have some lunch and stuff like that, and by the time you had your siesta, you're back out and riding again in the afternoon. So I think that's really cool. That between being able to now have your handbrake, foot brake options, obviously your power options, wheel options, things like that. This bike, again, it's the one bike that you can buy that, sad to say, it can replace pretty much a whole garage full of motorcycles. The only thing is you might need 2 of them because you're going to have some buddies that are going to want to ride yours for sure. And we are expecting some demos coming out here in the not so distant future, so keep tuned for that. And we're excited for that. I'm excited for that. You may have to pry it off of me, but that's going to be for your purposes to enjoy and test out and sell some bikes off of that, so that'll be really cool. Another thing I want to talk about is our display here. The fact that this thing, you mentioned you can slide it around, get your features with that, but the bike will come with a phone that gets mounted on the handlebars that allows you to do all that stuff almost on the fly. Really, I mean, obviously you probably want to be slowed down or stopped when you're going to be doing it, but really it enables you to have a custom ride on the track. So you pull over the side, you can change it up however you want to, versus having to come back, hook a laptop up to it or a tool up to it or something like that. Now you can just do it right there with the phone. And so that's really cool. That comes with it. It just kind of plugs into the handlebar right there. Super neat there. I think that's super high tech, so I'm really excited about that. Another thing that we're excited about is I haven't heard anybody say they didn't like KYB forks and shocks, and that's what this is outfitted with. And so that, between a bike that's not going to be fighting you and shocks that work incredibly well, I think it's going to be a bike that's going to handle it well. But you said something really interesting earlier about weight, and I know that's a big thing. Some of the previous electric bikes were kind of heavy for what they were, but when you rode them, they didn't feel as bad. But this bike, you said charged weight instead of wet weight like we have with gas bikes. Charged weight, quote unquote. Looking at 240 pounds.
Yeah, right about 240. And one thing that we have discovered, there was a study that was done a few years ago about all the rotating mass of a 450 motor. All those moving parts from the crank and the rod, the piston, all that stuff is equal to about 90 pounds worth of feel. And when you feel that the most, when you lean. So like a 125, you can really flick it around. A 250, yeah, but not as much. 450, you just don't flick those things around that much unless your name is Tomac or Sexton or something like that, right? And so, like when Roxon rode this about a month ago, he agreed that this felt like a 125 when he was cornering it.
Yeah.
But yet it had the power of a 450 on steroids when he wanted to get out of turn. You know, so it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. One of the things that just in riding some electric bikes, and I'm sure this is going to be some of the similar ways, what I think is so much fun about it is you can really focus on the mechanics of riding a motorcycle. It's no longer make sure you're in the right RPM and right gear, and you can now focus on having the right body position, and you can see how much that body position alone affects how the bike is going to handle. So that's really a really cool feature on that. The bike is just going to, you have a lot less variables to have to deal with, and it really makes riding a lot more enjoyable because it's just you and the machine and the trail that you're on, and there's a lot less variables, obviously a lot less maintenance. You were joking earlier, but you were serious. The first service is at 50 hours, and I don't know about you guys, but not a lot of people get 50 hours in a year. A serious weekend warrior definitely could. But your first service is 50 hours, and what is that?
It's changing the oil, which there's about 150 cc's of oil. It can maybe fill the bottom of a Racial Right cup.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost nothing.
It's tiny. And how often do you have to change air filters?
I love that.
Zero air filters.
That. My favorite.
Of course, you have your normal wear and tear, your change sprockets, tires, brake pads, things like that. But I mean, as far as your normal weekend routine, it's going to be keeping the bike clean, keeping your chain lubed, put a little bit of air in your tires, and you're good to go. So it's more fun, less work. So you're going to ride it more because you have less excuses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your air filter's dirty. Either that air filter can wait one more weekend, or you got one excuse or we're not going to ride. But you're going to be looking for excuses to go ride with something like this, and I think that's what really excites me about it is when you're having fun, you find reasons to go out and have more fun. If fun is work to get it, it's kind of a barrier sometimes. Anything else that you'd like to hit on while you're here?
Yeah, so one other thing, if you look over here on the left side, you'll notice no gear shifter. And that's right, it has one single gear. And what that means is, and by the way, this is not a clutch, okay? This is an optional rear brake that you have, because you can have either an optional handbrake or a traditional foot brake, but there's no need for a clutch, because this bike, you kind of touched on it a little bit a while ago, it never bogs and it never over revs. And that's just great. So I mean, when do you hear riders having to use a clutch when they come in, they forgot to downshift or they downshifted too much and then they have to do all that? You also said it earlier that it helps you focus on body positioning more because you have less to do. You also get to focus more on line selection.
Yeah.
You come into your turn and you're more set up, thinking about the line, not worrying about your downshifting. You're just braking, and it's just more. You have more options and and less things to think about, and more options to do on the track.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're not fighting that rotating mass, which is going to, of course, the rotating mass of that engine is going to try to keep you going straight.
Yes.
And when you don't have that, you're free to move about the cabin. You know, you can turn left, you turn right whenever you want to.
I like that.
You can. It's point and shoot. You look where you want to go, and it follows. And so it kind of takes away all the other variables and gets you back to the basics of that.
Exactly.
Super fun. I can't wait to ride one. You said you've gotten to ride one a few laps, and obviously a huge memorable experience.
Oh, man.
What was that like?
Well, it's great. And I got to tell you a little bit about that. That was in Barcelona, Spain. So that's where these are made. So it's Swedish founders and engineered and put together at the factory in Barcelona, Spain. There's a track called Golf MX that they use all their testing at. It used to be a golf course. And a guy bought it, a motocross dad bought it about 3 years ago and converted it into a motocross track. I mean, who hasn't dreamt about that?
Right.
So he did. He bought a golf course, changed it to a motocross track. Within 3 months, it got shut down because of noise.
Oh, well,
So it's just been sitting there
Yeah.
empty. That's where Stark uses it to do all their testing.
Right.
So that's where I went to this private track, and it was great. Had some good elevation change and had some off cameras we got to work on. The day I was on it, it was pretty hard and slick because it was supposed to rain the next day, so they kind of had rain prep going on the track. So the bike just carved through the stuff, no problem.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. In riding some of the other things in the past, one of the things with no sound is, man, you'd be surprised at the wildlife you see, but it kind of affects the way that you ride the bike, because now you have another sensory way to see what the bike is doing. So you can hear the suspension working, you can hear what your what your grip is like, and what your traction's like, and so now you can kind of diagnose the dirt and kind of control the way that you ride a little bit. So super cool on that. Plus, it's super easy to get traction. Because that really linear throttle, you're able to really dial that in and get that traction back out of it. So
Exactly.
really neat on that. Matt, thanks a lot for coming out today. Appreciate you showing us this bike. Don't want to see you again until I have one I can ride.
Next time I'm here, I'll have my demo.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you guys. If you guys have any questions or want to do pre-orders, hit us up at Ajax Motorsports. We're happy to take your pre-orders, and we're excited to see you guys on one too. So keep tuned.